Hello,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Camila just invited me to this today. I'm so excited.
Oh, I love that. Wait, hold on. Let me activate all my cameras. Hello. Um, Join without audio. Okay, 1 second.
I just realized I was muted. How are you doing, Mo?
I'm good. Yeah, I just looked outside and my cactus pad put in the ground just grew a new arm. I didn't know if it would do that, so I'm super excited about it.
I know during the storm in Texas, all the cactus and the palms and stuff just like didn't make it, but most of the
Oh,
cactus are coming back. The prickly pears and stuff just have all these little babies that are so cute. Welcome. Hi.
Hey,
Hey, Sarah. I saw Steph dancing as soon as I logged on.
me too. And then she disappeared. Oh, that's my stove.
no, I'm still here. Still here. I thought nobody was like had their video chat on, so I was like, oh, let me
I
just
love your little outfit. You look so cute.
thank you.
Are you home right now?
Yeah, I'm home. Yeah, I like Sammy. I like your two camera setup.
Thank you, thank you. It's necessary. So whenever I talk, it's gonna show you the stove right now, but we'll work on that.
Sammy has angles.
You know, I'm so excited.
Yeah,
So
I
is my
usually wait
stove.
about 5 minutes, let everyone settle in.
That's fine. I love it. I'll show you what's happening in the pot while we're here. I started to make some broth earlier. So it's been simmering and I'll pour from the cup. You can see a bunch of good stuff in there.
What do you have in your broth?
It's like a freezer scrap broth with some chicken bones, some oyster mushrooms, and then I had some Korean short rib the other day. So it's a little hodgepodge of stuff, not necessarily vegan, but will do what it needs to do.
Yeah, most stuff. I know we have a few more people that might show up. Have you made this before, Sammy? Besides the testing?
Besides the testing, I've made mofongo before, like years ago, and then I just came back from Puerto Rico, so I had a lot of mofongo over there, which inspired this. And I've made a similar kind of mushroom dish prior to, but not really before this ideation for this thing came up. So I'm excited.
Thank you for
we're in this together.
experimenting with
Of course,
us.
I made some of my grandma's sofrito today.
Love that.
Yeah, my other. It smells so delicious. I'm so excited. But yeah. Are you in Texas too, Mo?
Yeah, I'm in Austin as well. Me and Camila used to be coworkers, and now we're friends.
I love that growth.
Yeah, Mo teaches too.
Oh, so sweet. Yeah, Camila was just telling me about the outdoor education vibe. I was really into that.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
So sweet.
All right. I think we can set it off, and then people can just trickle in if we have some latecomers.
Totally fine. If you want to spotlight this camera that I'm on now rather than the stove,
Yes.
I know when I talk, this is gonna pop up, but perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna move my camera down so you can see my area. I'm not sure if anyone's gonna be cooking along, but or if you have any questions, just holler and I'll answer to the best of my ability. And yeah, we can get it started. Sound good?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so first we're gonna start with the mojo de ajo. And I'm just gonna rough chop some garlic that I have here because I'm gonna use my pestle and mortar, aka bilong, to make a little paste.
Okay.
And this is gonna be a nice little saucy thing that we add on top of, I mean, you can keep it for other dishes. I'm sure it'll be delicious on some eggs or some, I mean, I wanna put egg, everything on an egg, but it will be delicious probably in many applications or whatever you wanna put it on. But this is gonna take a little while. So I'm gonna do bit by bit, and then I'm just gonna smush, smush, smush until it's a nice paste. I'm gonna make a smaller batch than what the recipe gave just for this particular purpose, but I'll just show you how it's done. I was gonna use my NutriBullet, but then I was like, you know what? Let me use my hands.
Yes. It's so cathartic. It's not always the most practical when you're pressed on time, but
no, definitely not. But I'm pro slow cooking. I want to take my time with it, and I enjoy the journey of it all, you know.
Are those olives going to be a part of it at some point?
They're going to be a part of with the mushrooms,
Okay.
but definitely. My roommate / best friend hates olives, so they're gonna have to deal with it. But sometimes it's an essential part of the meal, you know.
Yeah, and an acquired taste for sure. It took me a little bit to like them, and then when I did, I loved them. But I have this very funny memory of one of my best friends trying an olive for the first time at like an Italian market in Torino, and I was so psyched for him to try it, and I was like in the middle of paying, but I was watching him try it, and he like almost threw up like right there. No. And then I couldn't stop laughing. The man was so confused. I was like trying to pay him, but I couldn't like gather myself, and he just never had olives again after that.
Damn, I hate that because there's some, especially the Italian ones, like
they were so good.
But I'm happy you crossed over to this side now too.
Yeah.
So this is gonna take me a couple of minutes to mash, but it's getting there a little bit. You can see it's like breaking down a little more.
Yeah.
Make sure my brightness is all the way up too.
I remember reading somewhere that garlic, once it's penetrated, it activates this like defense response, and that's where like its intense smell and flavor comes from. But until it, like, if it isn't penetrated, it doesn't have that same response. So like if you're gonna, I guess, consume a clove for medicinal purposes, you want to make sure it's penetrated so that all those like chemicals are activated.
All that good stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we love garlic. She is so powerful.
So powerful.
I do this thing too sometimes where I do like the garlic soaked in honey or like suspended in honey for medicinal, and like I'll take a nice sweet pungent gulp of that when I'm not feeling well.
It's so tasty.
I think so too. All right, it's getting a little more pasty, which is great. I'm gonna add some cilantro here. Just to give it some brightness and also so I can paste up. And FYI, for cilantro, you can also use the stems, which we love to do. They have the same amount of bite and flavor, you know, promotes not being wasteful. And, you know, we love that. I'm also gonna add some lemon here. So I have my little citrus juicer. And I'm using half a lemon right now, but if I need more, I have more. This juicer really gets it all out. And I'm also gonna juice this lime too.
I bought a little juicer for grapefruits because I really love like fresh pressed grapefruit juice.
Me too.
But it's just like so stressful how many you need to get like a cup or two. So I use it very, very like sparsely.
Damn, you got the grapefruit plug out there?
If only. They have like decent, they have some decent ones here.
Yeah, there's some
But
really big grapefruits like at
Yeah.
the store sometimes.
Actually last night, my roommate's partner bought a grapefruit and I woke up in my like middle of my slumber and it was in the fridge and I just took a nice juicy slice at like 1 a.m. and it really like solved whatever problem I was having.
I feel
It
that.
felt very healing. Can you grow citrus trees out there?
Yeah, I think so. It might
Right.
not, and because we definitely have like a tropical climate or like 8B growing zone. So I feel like some citrus for sure. I just don't know. I feel like just Florida has the natural, year round.
California too.
Yeah.
So jealous of them.
They just have, California has like all across the board. It's
Winning.
so.
That. So it's all starting to come together a little more. If you can see, it's kind of dark in there.
Yummy. Reminds me of like the base of a chimichurri.
It smells so good. I wish you all can smell it right now. Yeah, I wanted to get this out of the way first since it's like one of the more tedious things, and I'll just leave it to sit on the side so it can soak up all the flavors. Have you made anything fun recently, Camila?
Yes. Me and my partner, we got we have a CSA and we got fennel, which I hadn't really worked with much before. And there was this really, really like simple fennel with anchovies recipe on Bon Appetit. So I tried it. It was like rigatoni with fennel and anchovies, a little bit of like lemon and citrus zest, some mint. And it just was like one of the best pasta dishes I've ever had. It ended up becoming, it was so buttery without butter. And just like really well balanced in flavor.
Fennel.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You should, next time you get it, you should like roast it whole and caramelize it. It's so
Yeah, that's what the recipe called for. I just like let it caramelize and added some mint, some garlic. It was so good. But I'll have to try it on my own. I saved the oil for like the rest of the week because there's a little bit left over, and I would just add it to everything.
I love that. I'm also a huge fan of tin fish.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
She comes through.
Yeah, sardines. So good.
I just got squirted on. So it's a little more pasty too. Maybe you can tell it's a little closer, but almost there. Probably about 2 more minutes, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of oil so it thickens up and all comes together a little more. And this is also like a very flexible recipe. I feel like you can treat many different herbs this way and create a nice little fresh, bright sauce. And if you're like not a fan of, I'm like a chunky kind of food person, so I don't mind having like thicker bits of stuff in my sauces or whatnot. But something like this can also be like strained in a cheesecloth or like put through a strainer too if you just want the liquid aspects of it.
I love the chunkiness.
Right. All right, let me grab my oil. I'm just gonna put a little bit of olive oil. Shout out to Trader Joe's.
We just got this ice cream from Trader Joe's. I think it's like a flavor that's returning from many past years that I hadn't tried before, but it's called ube, which is like a yam.
Ooh, yum.
I don't know if you've tried it, but oh my gosh, it was so good. I was like not sure what to expect, but it had very much vanilla pistachio hints, but like it was also like purple, which was interesting. Must
I
try.
love that. I like ube too. Yeah, I've had it pickled before, like the actual plum. I mean, yeah, but I haven't had ice cream.
Try it.
Sounds really yummy though.
Mhm.
I'll keep my eye out next time I'm there. I just got these little ice creams from there that are like the end of the ice cream cone, right? So it's
I
like
love that.
right, and it's like chocolate covered, and it's honestly the perfect amount. I'm like, wow, this shit hits.
They just hit it every time.
Right. All right, so I'm just about done with this. If I wanted to, I can keep going a little more, but like I said, I don't mind the chunks. So it's now like the more pasty. Here, let's put it on the spoon. Like if you can see, like there's some thicker chunks in there, but I'll just pull that out. But if you wanted a more finer thing, you just keep having at it. I would do normally, but for today's sake, yeah, I'll probably run through it a few more times towards the end. And yeah. All right. So now that that's done, I like to prep all my stuff just so it's ready to go, set my knees. So we're gonna prep for the mushrooms. In the recipe, I said oyster, but you know, in the Bronx, sometimes they'd be lacking and they don't have oyster mushrooms. So I
like
had to settle, you know, it'd be like that. I had to settle, I guess, but I'm cool with it, with baby bella mushrooms. I like to tear them by hand because the surface area really is lovely and it's not as linear. So like, you know, you get some fun crunchy bits and like the sauce really coats the mushroom in a fun way. So, you know.
Yeah, I love that. I don't think I've ever tried that.
Yeah, any mushroom, even tofu too is really good tear. Like for so long I was like chopping in these like linear rectangles and squares, but I realized, especially when roasting, like it really does something to the texture when it's like hand torn. I really appreciate it. It's fun to eat.
Baby bellas are also like a very, very solid mushroom.
No, that's all reliable right here. Like she really gets the job done. No, they had some oyster mushrooms. Like I go to this little like international market that's like Eastern European x South American Bronx teas. I don't and they just had some rinky ones today, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that to myself. They was a little dehydrated and not the right way. So but yeah, they're pretty easy to tear. You'll learn today I'm not all about uniformity, you know. I think
it's good to
I like to use my hands. Right, yeah, I like to use my hands. There's definitely a method to the process, but there's also like a lot of wiggle room and forgiveness, I feel, which I appreciate, especially when I'm cooking for myself for loves, you know. And I took the stem out of a lot of them before, but some of them still have stems. It's really fun. It's pretty satisfying.
Yeah, even just listening to the crunch of it snap. ASMR.
And I'll save the stalks too to make broth or something in the future. I usually just freeze all my like little scraps. I don't really use like kale greens or brassicas. Some people do, but I feel like it gives it kind of a bitter taste. But I will throw that in something to give it whatever little flavor these baby bellas have. All right, I think that's most of them. It's probably a little too much for me right now, so whatever I don't use, I'll definitely save.
I cooked with King Oyster for the first time recently, and it was, oh my gosh, such an experience.
It's so yummy, right?
So good. It's so meaty. Let me try and remember, because like I'm sure they were going along with something, but ended up just stealing the show. I might have just been having like rice and tofu and greens.
Wait, are you a vegetarian?
I eat fish, and every once in a while I eat a fried chicken sandwich.
I respect that.
So
That's a balanced diet to me.
you know, we try.
These are the best. When I just came, so New Orleans like has the best because they put coleslaw on top of it.
So good.
So amazing, so amazing.
I like coleslaw, but I don't really love when it's all very creamy. I much prefer like the vinegar-y based one.
I've made a really good cashew-based Dijon mustard one that was like very, very good on a catfish po' boy.
Yes. Oof. Sounds delicious. No, Cashew does this thing and these like veggie recipes. She really can be cheese.
Yes.
Okay, so this yellow pepper is for the mushrooms as well. There was like a little baby inside.
Oh, I love when that happens. It's so
it's so cute. And again, I like to try to use as much of the actual fruit as I can. So I'm gonna de-seed it a little bit because I don't really feel like eating them right now, even though they are edible. Try to get as much of the good stuff as I can. Yeah, Steph, did you eat a lot of good food when you were in NOLA? Tell me more.
Yeah, like sorry, I keep on going on and off. It's also because I'm cutting film, so I was like, I don't want to look disrespectful, but I had
casual, just cutting film on Zoom workshops.
Yeah, I had a lot of crawfish. There was like this one spot that was out of like, so my friend picked it up. It was like this, like a person's apartment, and then they had to go to this bar.
Wrong one.
And
but they had to go where?
To a person's apartment. Like it's not house because they don't have apartment, but then like you pay at the apartment and then pick it up at this bar. It's so random, but it
That's
was
when you know it's real.
Yeah, like seriously, there's also a Jamaican spot that we should go to in Yonkers when it's like out of like this weird parking lot that's just like a whole bunch of people and there's like fish and like all this Jamaican food. But that's in Yonkers. We'll do that later in the year. But that's how you know it's really
I love that.
So yeah, the crawfish was amazing. Like it was like really spicy and salty because I'm kind of like, oh, I like salty food. Overly salty sometimes. And people are like, relax. And I'm like, I can't. But yeah, it was really amazing crawfish. And there's a huge population of Vietnamese immigrants in New Orleans. So a lot of the crawfish spots are like Vietnamese ran. And it would have like scallions and celeries and bay leaves, which was really delicious. I liked it that way too. What else? Po' boys, I really liked. Which I was like, and there was a diner, which diner food sometimes is a hit or miss in New York for me. But there was a diner that we went to every single morning, and I got like chicken tenders and waffles in the morning, and the chicken tenders were like just perfectly crispy and like biscuit sandwiches and yeah, it was. I would like gain weight out there, and I was like, "Is this what I all needed in my life? Just
biscuit food."
Yeah.
Yeah, biscuits will stick to you, baby.
Truly. What else? There's like this popcorn Cajun. Still, I don't know. I don't understand the Cajun Creole situation. I did have something that only a bite of it, and I wasn't a big fan of it, which was like gator sausage, but it was mixed with pork a little bit. Not a big fan, but yeah, mostly what else? This popcorn that was like Creole popcorn, and it had like this seasoning that was like really spicy and red. I can't really describe it, but then they'll mix it with like caramelized popcorn, so it's like something you buy at the supermarket. I really like that. Yeah, there wasn't a spot that missed my taste buds. Like you know, like I was just like, wow, like everywhere I went.
I love that.
How long were you there, Steph?
For 9 days.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good amount of time.
Yeah, a good amount of time to try everything. Trying to think of what else did I eat that was also really good. Also, there was a museum that I went to was for restaurants and like it was like a food history museum, and I learned like there's things that like for example I see all the time like Wendy's, but I didn't know she was from Ohio.
What?
Not she.
Wendy's from Ohio. And the spice I sent there's this spice like it's called obey or something, not like obey like obey, but like obey.
Old Bay.
Yeah.
That good shit.
The other one is like MCC. I don't know how to pronounce it.
McCormick's.
McCormick's was around in 1886. That's when it was like developed, like not developed, but like started to be packaged. And I was like, whoa, we've been using this seasoning for like I don't even know, like for so long. And I just learned so much about food and like it was just like such an interesting museum to really think about like the prohibition area too, and how like a lot of the shiners were women, and sometimes they were even asked by like male drivers to like sit with them so they don't seem like suspicious, and like they're the ones who were helping the brewery process. And it was really interesting to even think about that and like learn about that history, because like New Orleans has so much history in like the whole like every corner that you turn to, which I really loved and got me really curious. I had beignets,
Yum.
yeah, which were really good. Oh, I forgot about that. I was calling them beignet, like the cream.
Wait, what's a beignet?
Beignet is like a fried, like it's
You ever had like zeppelis, like the fried dough at the street fair, or like the
Yeah.
it's kind of like that, but it's like a pocket that's like soft and fluffy. And
Okay,
quite
okay. So
delicious.
it's like a dessert type of situation.
Yeah, or a
Gotcha.
breakfast. You never know. How
Yeah.
are you feeling?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Before you continue, Steph, you can switch the spotlight over to my other camera because I think I'm gonna start
I gotcha.
working over there.
Thanks for the heads up. Here we go in the
All right.
kitchen.
All right. So right now I have a little bit of peanut oil on my, okay, my roommate just came home. I have a little bit of peanut oil on my pan. I was gonna use avocado oil, but it was like $20. And I was like, you know what? We're gonna get the peanut oil.
Avocado oil is expensive.
Yeah, I was like, that's cute for somebody else. And I'm
Go to
I'm pretty
Marshall's.
generous. Right. I'm about to get my Maxinista on because
Yes.
so I'm pretty generous with the sofrito. This is probably like 2 tablespoons or so. And in this sofrito is ají dulce, culantro, which is similar to cilantro, but has more of a earthy, mellow flavor when I feel like cilantro is a little brighter. Cubanelle peppers, which are sweet peppers, sweet frying peppers, some bell pepper, red onion, and stuff. I think that's pretty much it actually. So I'm just gonna heat that in the oil a little bit. I don't want it to get too brown, but I just want some of the flavors to like meld into the oil. And then I'll put on the onions and peppers I just chopped and sweat them a little bit. And I also started heating this water up to put the plantains in. And like traditionally, well, I can go either way, but mofongo is made with fried green plantains. I feel like that's the most common version. Also, a lot of recipes when using sweet call for fry as well. That's cool and I'm down for it, but also I like the texture and the sweetness of the boiled one. And since these are a little more yellow, they'll keep a firmer texture. Like the ones that I was testing with were like pitch black and they were honestly quite mushy in a great way. I still ate that much, but so I'm gonna put these in before it starts boiling so it can, you know, cook completely through. So we're just gonna let that do its thing there. And The sofrito's starting to sizzle a little bit. Shake a little around.
The one thing about being on Zoom is you can't get the aroma.
I'm so jealous for everyone. I mean, I'm so sad for you all because it smells really good already. But in due time, y'all have the recipe so you can make it for yourself. And I'm gonna just put some of these in. Start. And I have some more peppers too. And we'll only cook these till they start to like sweat down a little bit. And we'll cook them a little more than that actually. This reminds me of like the San Gennaro festival in New York. Like I love street fair, like Italian peppers and sausage.
So good. Philly also has a really good Italian market.
Oh, I've been trying to eat in Philly. I feel like they got some good stuff going on.
Yes, I've only been a couple of times, but they do. They have a lot of history too.
I'm curious. This is a massive piece, so I'm probably gonna just take that out right now.
So many sirens today. It feels like I'm in New York somehow.
What's going on, Austin? All right. And then while this is like cooking down a little bit, so I'll bring it over here. And here's tomato paste and achiote, which is kind of looks similar to tomato paste, but it's like here. It's kind of like if you ever like found clay outside and like you wet it and you did the ribbon test, like that's kind of what it feels like. And it's made out of annatto seeds. Here's not the cutest representation of it, but and it traditionally has been used for like food coloring, like natural pigments, and also as a flavor agent. If you ever had sazon, this is what makes it that beautiful red-ish orangey color. And I feel like in low doses, it really doesn't do too much unless it's like hyper fresh or like super duper fresh for flavoring. But in the amount that we have here, I feel like it gives it a nice like earthy, robust flavor that kind of pairs well with the sofrito, which is nice and bright. So, and also I want it for the color of the stew. In my mind, it was a brown stew.
Yes.
So, or it has some tint in it. So what I'm going to do with this is in this broth that I have here, I'm going to pour a little bit of the broth in this cup, just so it can melt down and kind of get a thicker texture. And then I'll pour it over the mushrooms when they're in there. And I have this on a medium heat here, which should be fine. And I will strain the broth later, but for right now, I'm just gonna dip a ladle in there and call it a day. And then I'm just gonna grab a fork and like slowly smush around. Such a beautiful color.
It is.
Now I have a friend who makes clothes out of like natural pigments and dyes, and I'm like, girl, you better get on this because it's where the money's at.
There's so much you can use. It's crazy.
I know. So fun. So it's already like kind of a little less crunchy, but nice texture that I want. And I'm only gonna add a little bit of salt now. There's no salt in the sofrito. And I won't salt when the mushrooms are on, because with salt, the mushrooms, it draws out a lot of moisture from them, and it then becomes kind of a rubbery texture. So typically with mushroom dishes, you want to salt after, or you can salt like the pre-steps there, but direct salt on the mushrooms will have a sort of reaction, I guess. Yeah. These are starting to cook down a little bit. Has anyone made mofongo before?
I have not, but I've had it a few times and it's always been delicious with a mojole, ajo, and like a steamed yuca, which is really good.
I love yuca. I feel like I hardly make yuca for some reason.
She's kind of a bitch to like peel.
Prepare. Yeah, my aunt, honestly, she makes the best yuca, and then she told me she uses frozen, like pre-cut yuca, and it really rocked my world. I was like, damn, you did something to that. You bodied it, because it's so good.
It's easy to prepare. It's like it's a little much to peel, but like it's worth it, I think.
Yeah. Now when it's nice and buttery, I'm like such a fan.
I know. And then you can also fry it and it's still super good.
Oh yes, I always forget about yuca fryers.
Next level.
Yeah, and I chose sweet plantains today too, because I'm like such a sucker for sweet and savory at the same time. And these are, I think when they're fried, they're like more overtly sweet, but in this way you get like a tinge of the sweetness, but still the starchiness of the green plantains, which I appreciate. But
yeah, I thought that was so interesting, because I've always had like the green plantain.
And I have the skin on too for these, because I don't want them to dry out, and in this way this like contains the moisture and like steams it inside of itself. So I'll just let it cool for a little bit after it's done boiling.
It comes off super easily too. I usually split like a couple I don't know, cuts in it.
Yeah, I could have done that today, but you know what, YOLO.
I'm a big fan of the boiled plantain as well. I really like that. I don't know, mild, mushy texture.
A little bit of mush takes you a long way. Like,
it
shout out to our ancestors. They did that. So yeah, these are starting to break down a little bit, but I still want them to be a little more.
And you said you're on medium heat?
I am on medium heat. I feel like with this pan and other like steel pans that I have, like anything really higher like scorches the bottom and things start to stick. So I think low, not necessarily the lowest heat, but like nice and temperate and slow is the way to go. And I might add a tiny bit of broth in there just to help aid. Camila, do you save your veggie scraps for broth?
I'm always super lazy to make broth. I'm gonna be honest. Like I usually end up.
You know they freeze so well, and then you can compost it after too. Just FYI, you know.
No, I know. I have scraps all over the house. I have multiple compartments for scraps that just like have all these purposes, and then it's just like 100 projects going on at once. So I'm like, the scraps need to go with the compost because it's just not all getting done.
I understand that.
But I think come this winter, I'm definitely gonna try and make broths more often, because I want to get down into some soups.
Oh yes. No, it's nice. I always, even when I make them too, I like I'll freeze the scraps, make the broth, and then once it cools, I'll just freeze the broth, you know? So I always have like at least 1 or 2 quart containers for whatever. It comes in such like so handy.
Yeah. How long does it keep for the broth? Frozen.
Quite a lot. I mean, I use them pretty frequently, but I would say for like up to 3 months or so, maybe even longer, depending on how fast you move through stuff. But yeah, and like sometimes I'll do like, this one is like kind of a hodgepodge of everything, but like I had these lamb ribs frozen, like lamb rib scraps frozen in my freezer since last summer, and I want to make a lamb broth to like serve it with something special. So
Yeah.
we'll see, you know. Okay, so these are breaking down a little bit. I might add the mushrooms in a minute or two. But
I'm gonna let my cat out really quick.
Yeah, go ahead, babe, do what you do. Come over here. Perfect. Here's my face if anyone's interested. So I'm just adding a few mushrooms now. I probably won't use all of these, but I'll do it batch by batch so they can slowly cook down. And I'm gonna add some olives. I'm not gonna chop them because I don't feel the need to. And these are Spanish olives that have pimiento peppers stuffed in them. I don't know if you could tell, but they're really yummy. I'll put the liquid in.
It's looking so good already.
Oh, thank you very much. I wish there was like smell-o-vision.
I know.
Yeah, I love me a hearty stew. I'm like, I want it chunky. I want it thick. I want it filled. Oops.
Flying everywhere. That's how we want it.
Mm-hmm. Grab that. Yeah. And again, with this recipe, you could use it with tofu. You could use it with chicken, shrimp. You know, I think it's pretty flexible and generous. If you hate peppers, you don't even need to put peppers. You know, like there's many variations, and I feel like it's just like a hearty, forgiving kind of meal.
I'm excited to try it with the sweet plantain because I'm a big fan of like the sweet and savory combo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my MO. I'm always seeking that. I'm gonna pour a little bit of the this tomato achiote broth mixture in too, so it can like start building that kind of flavor. Oh, still a little chunky there. A little more plain broth. Yeah, just let that cook a little longer. The plantains are bubbling away. You'll notice them get more yellow or a little saturated in their color as they continue to cook.
Sammy, how do you cook with people when they're kind of less involved in kitchen spaces and cooking altogether?
Good question. I'll go stand in front of this one. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like since I'm such already a fan of slow cooking and like the long process, like I think it lends itself really well to like having a helpful hand, you know, like I will make all the homemade unnecessary sauce just for the fun of it, but then that usually leaves like many moving parts. And I feel because of my catering experience and maybe just kind of how my brain works, like I can see the big picture. Like I feel like what I notice a lot of cooks who are like intimidated by the kitchen or something, like they get really frazzled by all the steps. But I feel like since I can see the big picture, I can like easily break it down in that way. I try not to be bossy. My roommate makes fun of me sometimes. They'll be like, "Yes, chef," or something like that. But also, whatever. It makes me laugh. But I think there's always. Oh, did I freeze? Can you
You're
hear me?
moving on mine now. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I said something was unstable. But yeah, so I don't know. I really like to see people try new things. I like to see how other people do things. I think that's a huge way I learned in the kitchen is watching someone else cut an onion or something like that. And I'm like, oh, you do that way, or something like that. So I think it's when you teach, you learn, and when you learn, you teach. I don't know.
Yes.
But I learned a lot through observation and watching other people how they would approach something too. So I kind of like taking a step back. But there's always something to do if you want to get your hands dirty.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I resonate with that. People's different approaches.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting too. Like my mom growing up, like we always had people like for Thanksgiving and Friendsgiving. And like she will have all my friends in here like peeling collard greens and like never even or doing some kind of tedious task. So it was just always a joy to see how like all the ways people can be involved in something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's such a rewarding feeling at the end. I think when you're not like comfortable or experienced doing something and then you get like this chance to like be thrusted into it and then you like get to you know have it at the end and you feel like so much more a part of it and the process. It's so rewarding.
Yeah, no, that's one of my favorite parts too. Like even myself, because I feel like I often like approach dishes that since I don't have formal culinary training and things like that, like I'm so curious about so many different things. So I feel like with with cooking, I get to learn so much through the patience and the practice of it too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite part.
I love hearing that, like now, like the patient part and all that, just because like I feel like I've been with you through this process and like from like I'm so excited to experiment and like now like I remember you saying slow cooking and it's really inspiring to like always hear you speak. So it was really beautiful for that to hear that.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Yeah, no, honestly, Cherry has been there since my early cooking days. Like I used to, whenever we've been friends since early high school, and whenever my friends would come around, we like always make a pasta or like something easy and handy. So it's fun to grow with you too, babe.
Trajectory. That's beautiful.
I know we haven't had a meal together coming, I don't think. We went to a diner once, like years ago on Halloween or some shit like that.
Oh, I don't remember this. No.
It was early or late in the morning, so
yeah, I remember being very close many a times to pulling up to one of your Thanksgiving dinners, but like something always came up. But it must happen.
Yeah, there's always gonna be one, so you have a open invitation.
Yes.
Don't you worry.
And likewise, if you find yourself in Austin.
I would like to find myself in Austin. I'm curious. See what's up.
It's got some things, like any place. Some things to see, some things to eat.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Oh wait,
yeah.
so I was gonna ask about barbecue, but you don't eat meat.
No.
But that's a big thing over there, right?
Yeah, I've heard mixed things from people that have eaten barbecue in different places and are like big on barbecue. I've heard Texas has good barbecue, but not the best in terms of all the other places that do barbecue. And I've heard some of the best is in this little town, Lockhart, which is about I don't know, 20, 30 minutes south of Austin, or maybe east of Austin. But yeah, I have not yet had any here myself. I'm sure
They
it's
could
good
barbecue
though.
a fish, you know. They could freak it.
Yeah, barbecue peaches. There's a lot.
I love that.
Scallops. I'm
I'm a
sure
fan
it's
of that.
different though. I know I heard like South Carolina has really good barbecue, Tennessee.
I've had
So
barbecue in Tennessee, but also I was a vegetarian at the time, so I was like, damn. I had some good collard greens though, some yams.
yeah, the sides.
You know,
The
I hit
sides are
up
the main
that
when you're a
coleslaw,
vegetarian.
right?
Yeah. What brought you back to eating meat?
Good question. So I was a vegetarian for like 4 or so years in college, and I was farming a lot, and I had like the most amazing produce. Like seriously, I went to school in Western Mass, and like some things in that soil. I don't know what's in there, but it's really, really, really delicious. Um, and I always had vegetables, and I was always like all my farming friends were kind of vegetarian, so it was super easy to like fit into that, and I didn't even really miss meat like that. And then I came home, and my grandma made like pollo guisado, which was, it smells so good, y'all. Like it was and I was tempted to touch, and I had a bite, and it was really good. And I feel like after that I slowly incorporated meat back in my life. But even now, I mean, like I definitely am a meat eater, and I enjoy it, you know. But I don't think it's usually the highlight of my meals. I'm still so obsessed with vegetables, and like other things, but I'm trying to like not cook it at home as much, or not even really buy meat to have in the house. And like if I go out, then I'll eat whatever I want, you know. But yeah, I do have some pancetta in my refrigerator right now, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I mean, I would like to like get more sustainably raised meat and stuff like that. And when I do special dinners and stuff, I try to. But I mostly am excited about vegetables. Like, you know, that is what really gets me going on.
I hear that. Yeah, same.
Mm-hmm. That's the good stuff there.
All right, I'm gonna start getting into some of these questions with you.
Let's get into it.
So you were talking a little bit about going to school in Mass and farming in Mass. How do you think living in the Bronx versus your time in Massachusetts influenced your relationship to food? And what do you think these landscapes and social ecologies offer you and your connection to food?
Yeah, good question. I feel like in the Bronx growing up, like luckily I've grown up going to the botanical gardens all the time. I live right next to here, and there's a lot of green space that I did utilize. So I always felt like connected to how things grow and kind of curious about it, but didn't have many opportunities to get my actual hands dirty, you know, like there was a curiosity there, but not a practice. And then when I went to school, I joined a permaculture garden, which is, it's many things. It's kind of a whitewash, like they be stealing I did indigenous ideologies. Like it's a little problematic, I'm not gonna hold you, but it did teach me a lot at the time. Where their whole ethos is like they have 3 principles: earth care, people care, and fair share. So like they're really like intentionally gardening with the space that they have. So if there's like a ginormous oak tree in the middle of your field, like they're not going to cut it down, but they might grow some mushrooms underneath it, and on the edge they'll grow some like shade loving plants and like really work with the landscape, which I appreciate that kind of approach, because what I thought of farming before was like monoculture, big farm, solo, like not much diversity there. And when I started farming too, like when I put my hands in the dirt, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so familiar to me. Like I know what weeds to pick. it felt so natural and it was so restorative and like really helped me like zen out and balance my days, you know, which was really helpful, and was a guiding principle to my pathway to food. Like I've always ate well, fortunately. Like, you know, I'm Puerto Rican and African American with all my family in New York. Everyone pretty much cooks, you know, so like food was always a part of my life. But I think when I started seeing things from seed to fruit and beyond, like, and like having the opportunity to not only be a part of that, but like to eat, like to reap the benefits of these beautiful things, you know, I really, really got excited there. And yeah, and in Western Mass too, when I was in school, it was, oh, okay, hey girl, let me check on that. But when I was in school, like that was when I first heard of kombucha, before kombucha was even like in New York, I swear, like, you know, and like they already have like such a sustainable, like kind of hippie dippy mindset over there, which I took on to. And like when I came back to New York, I would get into like arguments with my mom all the time. I was like too woke, I think. And it was interesting too, because like all the sustainable things that my family did growing up, you know, like reusing the butter container or just being really mindful about how much we buy because we had limited funds and stuff, was super celebrated in Western Mass, but not, it was never about Black and brown people, you know, like I don't know if that makes any sense. Like there was a huge disconnect there.
Yeah.
And so when I came back, I really had to like reckon with that. Like if like I have this knowledge and this practice, but also my family has this knowledge and this practice that we've been doing for so long, but they felt so alienated from each other. And I think I had to do a lot of work on like marrying the two. Like this is what I know, and this is, I gained this language that's kind of inaccessible to the people that I care about. So how do I unlearn and relearn and share in a way that's not super like elitist academic type shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I don't know. I feel like that was a very roundabout way to answer your question, but I learned a lot there, and then I had to learn how to reapply it in the Bronx. But I haven't done farming in New York, I'll tell you that. Like I really miss it, and I've like volunteered at some community gardens and such here, but like I think the way that I was introduced to like big field deliciousness, like I kind of crave that like way to connect to the land, you know?
Yeah, community gardening is such a powerful tool for, you know, growing food in spaces where there isn't a lot of space. But like full-scale farming is just such another level of growing food that is really, really interesting. And yeah, just being in that space. I mean, I wasn't in a full-scale farm like that until I got here to Austin. And yeah, it was like an entirely different world almost. But I mean, of course, you know, similar still, because things are going to grow the way they grow, whether you're growing it in a container on your balcony or on a huge farm. It's just more the lifestyle that's a little different.
Yeah, and I think like something that was hard for me too was like the pace, like coming back home and like, again, I guess I'm a kind of slow person, even though I don't know, but like I miss so much the slowness of farming and like having the birds and the nature and stuff, and like something in me could not compute having both at the same time, like being in New York and also being able to like do this land work, you know? And I have been challenging myself to expand. And I also feel like there's no community gardens in my neighborhood currently. Like there's no, I mean, there are some, but like I have to still travel like over 25 minutes to get to them. And I'm like, is this my community? What does this mean to like serve a community I'm not as connected to, you know? I'm always happy to help out when I can, but it just, I don't know. I've felt like trouble connecting to other things that I don't feel like I belong to, you know?
Yeah.
Or I haven't like put that connection in regularly. So I just took out the plantains, by the way. So I'm gonna let them cool because they're really hot, but you can see like they're nice and yellow. And then I'll show the mashing process here.
Mm-hmm. They just they open up on their own, I guess. So you don't even need to do the slits.
Exactly. They're like, I got this. And then the mushroom stew is coming along. I'm gonna let it cook a little longer because I just added some more, but it's smelling really good and looking quite right.
I'm loving the color of that stew so much because it reminds me of pollo guisado, and just the gravy of it always like looks delicious. So it's like now I'm about to go to like the Dominican spot and just like be like, can I just get the gravy? It looks so good.
No, that's what I imagined in my head when I was thinking about the mushrooms. I was like, I need it to look that way for some reason. So, yeah.
All right, let's see. I want to get into preservation because I know that you are very interested in it / work with it, and I'm really curious about it. So preservation is a lens you've mentioned you have through which you approach food. And yeah, it's this like beautiful, magical, powerful thing. And I was thinking of just how metaphorical it is in so many ways. Like for interconnectedness, at least the fermentation process of like this thriving body of different chemicals and systems. And then I think of I have written this down because it's a lot.
Nah, baby, I love it.
But I'll let you talk on it a little if you want before it, because this one's loaded.
All right, break it up. Yeah, I mean, I think so coming from farming, right? And I think like having that surplus of vegetables that I like having access to that bounty and having the mindset that we grew this, and yes, it's bounty now, but we want to prolong like this harvest, right? That really was so exciting to me. And I still think preservation is like my thing in food. Like, you know, everyone's like, what's your thing? You know, and I'm like, I'm so excited by fermentation, pickling, dehydrating, making spice blends, all of that. Like it really like opened a door for me. And like I studied, as you know, like I studied urban planning. And one second. And when I realized like preservation was my lens, be it through planning or food or community, which are all combined together already, like it just like unlocked something for me. And I think with preservation, something that's so cool about it, like there is a historical connection because, you know, you can preserve an old building, you can preserve a landmark, you can preserve a family recipe, you can preserve so many things. And it just brings out so many other questions. Like, sorry, I have a mosquito bite if you see me scratching my leg.
That's
me. But with like, yeah, I don't know. It excites me on so many levels. Like I feel, oh, it says my connection's unstable. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you're still good. Your video is good and everything.
Okay, cool, great. Yeah, I mean, I think it has like personal ties too. Like, you know, my family on my father's side, they're from down south, right? And I've always been curious about like their migration up to New York. And again, my family on my mother's side, they're Puerto Rican and like second and third generation. I'm a third generation New Yorican, which I feel more connected to than even being from the island. Like it's its own very powerful subculture there. And I've always thought about the things that they were able to take with them and how they were able to bring them forward. Like, and often that's through food, right? Like my family doesn't have many heirlooms themselves, but like we have stories, we have each other, we have food and our memories. And like, that's the thing that kept me fueled and like fueled a lot of my curiosity. So I feel, yeah, I don't know, understanding that as my lens really just made it all click for me. It's like not only the act of preservation, but also the process and history and the journey of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking about that today because I was listening to something about how there's this huge disconnect with the concept of being self-sufficient because it's inherently incorrect. And I thought about preservation.
Wait, why is it inherently incorrect? Because like you can't do things by yourself? Like
not that you can't do things by yourself, but I think in a world where you're a part of a world, right? And you exist amongst others. I mean, even this, like if you consider it on a business scale and you're the CEO of a corporation, you're not self-sufficient because you depend on, your workforce to, so even in, like, it's just, and then, yeah, it's just, to me, I can't think of a scenario where it is like an absolute truth for something to be self-sufficient, except maybe like fungi, because they're crazy. Right. They could like provide super powerful beings. Yeah. But then I thought of just the beauty of fermentation specifically because of all these like different systems working together, and how that is such a big metaphor for interconnectedness. But to keep on this topic of preservation, I think a lot about, I mean, it's really amazing. There's so many avenues to it. I think I was listening to your talk with Playground, and you mentioned like dehydration and fermentation and all the different avenues. And I just also go back to like how essential it's been to people's survival through space and time, which I guess echoes a little of what you were saying about your father and the ancestry of everything. And just like from people going from freezing seal meat in the Arctic to like drying fruits and fish in the sun just to like see another day type of thing. And now we're at this place where food is overproduced and hyper accessible to most people. I want to say to the people who can afford it, right? It's hyper accessible, and that ultimately leads to like excess and becomes a waste. And so I wonder, under an industrialized society that deems food as disposable, like what role preservation can play in transforming these systems, and or like what you envision, or if you think about this, or what do you imagine for preservation as like this like ecological vehicle to this hyper industrialized space we live in?
Yeah, no, it's kind of interesting because preservation and industrialization kind of are not that far from each other, like at the basis of it. Because even when you think about all the foods that we have and the supermarket, the peanut butter, the salsas, all that is preserved, but they just add it with all this extra shit, right? That like that's where what gets people addicted to sugar and fat and all these things, right? I think before preservation also, I think we just need to learn how to grow our own food and have access to it. And even before growing your own food, like you mentioned, we don't, even in the Bronx, like I said about the mushrooms, right? Like if I go downtown, even Harlem, like now it's luckily in Harlem, but like all the accessibility of the quality of ingredients, there's still such disparity. And then when I come back uptown, like there's even more of that gap there. And like, I don't know. I just feel there needs to be a total education reform, and people just need to put their hands in dirt before we get to like the whole preservatives part.
Yes.
Because I just feel it's so lacking, and it's not that difficult. The the practice of, and like I'm sure so many cultures or people's grandparents like have these knowledge and these connections to things, but it's just so far removed. And like when you have the financial strain, it makes it even harder to think about the time it takes to do these things. You know what I mean? So I, in my eyes, it just boils down to education, like, and then land access, and then time to grow food, like, and then time to preserve, you know, like boiled away from all the other capitalist shit that keeps us busy with our lives, you know. It just feels like we need a like complete slow down.
I agree.
Or at least for the people who are willing to do it, you know, it just feels so far removed.
Yeah, I think if everyone kind of got a chance to see how long it takes to yield tomatoes, or, you know, or just
right, like this is, and I think with that education comes like, then you can understand like migrant labor issues, then you can understand like farm workers' rights and all this stuff, when you can see how it grows and what the process is, and like then you're more grateful for how this plantain got to the Bronx and how it got to my plate right now, like, you know, like, and not take all that shit for granted, like this globalization of the food industry. It just feels like so, because especially because we live in, well, not everyone lives in New York, but because I live in New York, and yes, there is disparity between all locations, but like we still have great accessibility to things that are not grown here, that are not local, you know, and I think it's so easy to take that for granted.
Yeah, like, I mean, one of the most prime examples of that, I guess, would be like the avocado boom, right? You know, like how for so long it was like this seasonal thing, and then once it became popularized more, it was like highly in demand in, you know, California, and then Mexico, and then like I think Chile are now, and it's like competing with like the cartel in some like regions of Mexico, which is crazy.
Right. Yeah, and I think like all that speaks to like localization, and like I'm also really interested in foraging and whatnot, and like getting to know your local terrier and like what's going on, what's growing here, what's edible, and like really connecting to your neighborhood, like to your community, your plant community, your human community, your built environment, and like learning all of that. And I just feel like if people were like to be good neighbors, you know, a lot of things would, good neighbors to everything in their community, then like a lot of these issues can be solved through exchange, through knowledge, and through familiarity.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely agree too with the education. I think going to the museum in Louisiana like really helped me even think, and I thought about you a lot too, Sammy, because it's like the preservation of a lot of the food and how long it took. But then they also talked about Popeyes, and then when it started getting commercialized, and like how it gave this person too power, like a kind of like power with that certain type of food that came from in Louisiana, this fame that he kind of capitalized on, you know, on food that was, you know, probably not his own recipe.
Right.
And that's something that got me really upset, but definitely got me thinking too, like how much we take for granted, and as well as like how some of these like icons like Little Debbie and, you know, like I said, Wendy's, or, you know, people on these like packaging, how we don't even know like what kind of like states they came from and like the history behind them, but we are like,
right,
because we're in New York and we're like so used to like just consuming things really fast, like there is like time where we're not really thinking. And I think if we had more time to give thanks, it would just like help on us like a whole spiritual level on all aspects. Yeah, so I definitely agree with a lot, like, and I think learning about it and educating is so important, because I think it gives you like I didn't even know how bananas were even like how it had to come through a certain state specifically because they found a way that it wouldn't be bruised when being shipped over. And I was like, wow, like, you know, like that's something that I take for granted, or I didn't know, or I didn't even understand that in that process. So yeah, thank you guys for saying that.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, I'm gonna pause really quickly so I can show you. I'm gonna show you on this camera because I think it's a little better. Can y'all see?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Ooh.
Okay, so I can show you how I did this too. I kind of did it a little low-key way. But here's the mashed plantain with some of the mojo on it, and I'll cut into it so you can see what it's looking like in there. And I think there are two ways to kind of enjoy this. And it kind of also depends on the ripeness of your plantain too. Here, I'm just gonna move that to the side. So here we have her. I use the bowl to kind of shape it because my pestle and mortar is not that big. And yeah, it doesn't look as sexy when you do that, but quite delicious.
Looks
yeah,
delicious, yeah.
And then I think I'll show you another way to do it where it's in the stew. It's sorry. Let me chew my food. Where the plantains are a ball and it sits inside the stew, kind of like matzo ball. And you can enjoy it that way as well.
I was like so caught up in conversation, but for that last one, so did you just kind of like coat the dish, the bowl with like the plantain mash? And then
so I mashed it in the, I'll show you. I mashed it in the pilon. So now I'm just putting the stew in this bowl so you can see. So I'll demonstrate a little bit with this one. So typically mofongo has like chicharron, like fried pork skins in it that gives it a nice crunch. I actually bought some earlier, but I don't think I'm gonna use them today. But right now I have these like fried garlics that I got H Mart just to give it a little something. A nice little textural crunch. And then with this, you mash it up. Well, this one's a little rough. Hold on. There you go. Okay. And for this pounded one, this one's actually a little more fibrous than the one I just used. You just want to break it down a little bit. And it combines very easily. This one's actually a little tougher than the other one, but still mashing. And now that it's cool enough to handle, if you want to make a ball, you just literally, I'm just going to scoop some of it out. And roll it in my hands. And you don't want it too dense because then it is harder to break. And then you just like put them in there and it soaks up all the stuff. Like Puerto Rican matzo ball.
love that.
And
did you
for the
grow
other
up,
one,
did you grow up eating both ways?
Yeah, I mean, like in sancochos and other stews and stuff that my grandma made, she would like immerse the ball into the soup and then like you eat it. It's like nice and tender, but it cooks with the whole thing. But I prefer kind of bringing it up and enjoying it in the stew like that. But I also like this fun little mountain of a way. Here, I'll show again. And I'll give the other one to my roommate who's currently DJing right now. Yeah. Like for the insides too, you can season it with I mean for the plantain mash, you can add smoked powder, adobo. I got the chicharrones over here. You know, really anything you kind of want in there.
All the works.
All right, let me grab. Right. All right, so you have me in like 3 different ways right now.
Okay, we got 2 going now.
All right. So yeah, the recipe's done.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm really excited to try that.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's really yummy. I'm excited that I get to eat it right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know which one to look. Oh, there we go. I wish I can share a plate with all of you right now.
You are. except we're not eating, but we're enjoying it with you.
Oh, thank you.
I want to know more about your identity as a kitchen poet. Tell me what it means to you to be a kitchen poet, and maybe what role art plays in your approach to food.
Yeah, I mean, I think food is art already, even in itself. I'll cut open a cabbage and I'm like, holy shit, this is like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And that is poetic to me, and that is gorgeousness in its own right, you know. So I'm easily moved by that from jump, you know, and like I will peel some onion skins and take like 20 pictures of its translucent, iridescent nature in the light. Like
Yes.
I get caught up in that. And I feel one through food, like, sorry, I'm thinking about your questions. Like through food, so much can happen, right? Whether it's art, poetry, community. And like, I think my favorite way to connect with people is through food over a table, and like some of the sweetest, most delicious, and like genuine moments of my life have happened in that way. And like, that is poetry to me as well. I do write a little bit, but I've had intense like writer's block for years. But I think food is a way that I can connect to my art, you know, and myself through that. Like even with taking pictures and photographs, like I've always been interested in photography, like low key, not like on Cherry's level, but since I was younger. And I think I fell out of it really hard for a couple of years. And the way that I got back into it was taking pictures of my meals and taking pictures of my table spread, and like even the leftovers, like all the mess of the kitchen, like the pile of dishes, like all of that just speaks to me in a way that is inherently poetic, that I am literally touched and moved by, like, you know. And I can't shake it. Like it just, I don't know. Do you know the poet Mary Oliver?
By the poet? No, I don't. I mean, maybe if I like have read a poem of hers.
One of her,
I'm bad at names.
Yeah, she's like this older white woman. She passed a couple of years ago, and she does nature poetry, and like literally she's like, of her ethos, she's like, I walk outside every day, and that like the bird in the tree, that's the poetry to me. And like her poems are so simplistic in form and nature, but like powerful in their everydayness, you know, like it's just like the beauties and the mundane in this way. And that's kind of how I feel about food and what attracts me to it, you know. And again, like even food being a cultural thing, like the way that like so many cultures have like crispy rice, like, you know, like gong gong or pegao or what's it called, tadig, or like, you know, all the ways that like the same thread and the same ingredient can be freaked and learned and loved in so many ways, like that's the stuff, you know. To me.
Yes.
So I do like do some like writing about it, but like that shit will probably never see the light of day. So we'll see. Maybe one day in like 20 years we'll see about that. But you know,
if you ever want someone to bounce work off, every poem I share feels like the end of my life. So I feel that.
Right. And I'm like, why am I humiliated right now for no
right.
reason?
No, I resonate with that a lot though. I think poetry makes me salivate in the same way that food does. And so like I feel that.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like a lot of my favorite writers, like poets as well, have such a rich connection with food, like Tasaki Shange, who wrote For Color Girls, who considers suicide, you know, and The Rainbow's Not Enough, and many other books. Like her work, just as in poetry form, like, and her writing and novel fiction form is so moving. And then she wrote this cookbook called If I Can Cook, You Know God Can. Have you ever heard of it?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm gonna share the link with y'all because it's amazing. And like the way that she even approaches talking about food is like so of life, you know, and like threads. I don't know, I was really inspired by her writing because like it is biography. It is like poetry, it is a cookbook in so many ways, but like unlike anything I've seen before, but also so it's like a meal like delivered to you. It's like so beautiful. So like to see it threaded in all these ways that don't have to be so far removed from itself, you know, like that is another way. Like I'm like, oh, all these things are connected and they all make sense and they all can be gift wrapped and like served on a plate together. So yeah, I don't know, I really love that.
Yeah, the intersectionality of food, poetry, and cooking.
There we go. And it's something that everyone shares, you know. Sorry, I keep going, but like
no, please.
Right, no, but it's something that everyone shares, like not literally, but like we all eat, we all have a common ground with this. It's not necessarily, it's like the most human thing ever, right? Like, so I just feel just finding the poetry in that, like, and that hopefully many people can relate to, you know, feels lovely and fun to me.
Yes. So much of this little project I put together is just wanting to, because we do it every day, right? And why not like really connect to this act that sustains us and is so much of our identity, and I can go on, but yeah, it's like it's everything, right? And there's beauty in that. It doesn't just have to be sustenance and survival. It's art and family and community and everything.
Yes, all of it, babe. Love it.
So this is a question I'm asking every chef. So I'm curious to know what you say. Tell me about a dish you've prepared that you continue to learn from.
Oh, wow. It's less so a dish. I mean, okay, I have two kind of things. One of it again is pickling and fermentation, because like you aid in that process. Like I think about making sauerkraut, right? Like you literally, like the healthy alive bacteria on your hands feeds into making this dish. You squeeze your hands and it helps break down, like if I'm squeezing the cabbage, you know, and the salt, and like the bacteria on your hands like helps aid that process. And like that's why no one kraut is alike, right? Because it's a part of you literally feeding this being, which I'm like, whoa, holy shit, like that's next level, baby, like, you know. And like just thinking about how that transfers, and like also with preserves, how it's so sensitive to its environment, right? If it's a hot day and I'm making pickles, like that's going to affect the taste of it like 2 weeks down the line, and the sensitivity of it all. So like that part really speaks to me, and I learn every time I make something new, just because it's so, you can aid in it and you can help it, but you're not in control in the same way. It really does its own thing. Even like making a vinegar or something, like if it's too hot, the mother's not going to grow and you're just going to have some like rancid fruit juice. You know, like there's so many layers in that really excite me, and I learn from it each time, each process, no matter where I'm at. And also, I guess it's less of a dish and more of techniques, like grilling. I feel the same exact way about, like, I love grilling. I don't get to do it as much as I would love to, because I just bought actually a little grill, so I have one, but like I don't get to experiment with that much. But like the simple technique of cooking with fire and like transforming an ingredient with fire, and I love grilling like pickled foods and like sweet foods and all that stuff too. But each time you have to pay a special attention to the object that you're cooking and really get to know it and like see how it interacts with the flame and interacts with the environment. And like, I don't know, being so immersed in that experience, I learned so much every time. I hardly make the same dish twice, I will say. I mean, like I have my comfort foods like that I make for Sammi that I'll make, you know, like oatmeal. I eat oatmeal like 4 times a week for breakfast. And you know, maybe I learned something there too, stirring my steel cut oats. But I think mostly the processes is what really kind of speaks to me, and like I feel so attuned to wanting to know more and learn and continue growing with it. And I feel like those things you can't get a mastery of. Like, you know, you can't be like a pickle master. I'm sure some people will say that they are, but like I don't think you can be, because it's its own entity at that point, that you have little to do with after you set it up.
Yeah, I really like those answers. With grilling, I'm just thinking about it's not just the food element. You have to like be really aware of it's like knowing how to like work a fire, right? Especially if like let's say you're not grilling, let's say you're like bonfire cooking and something like that, you're camping. So I really I love that.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's really such an experience. Like that requires you to use like all your senses in a way too, which I love when things have like a full body experience for me. Like I need to see how the smoke is like touching the fish that I'm grilling, and I can smell the aroma, and I might burn my little hand. I hope not, but like it's just like something that requires you to be so fully engaged, which I feel like so often now, like many things don't, especially like being on my phone or during pandemic, like wasting away sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I appreciate the things that like require me to fully show up and like interact with it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, much respect for that stuff. Cooking and gardening are those two things for me. So all right, we're gonna close out with the last question, and that is, tell me about the last dish that you had or made that made you feel sexy.
I love this question. Okay. I mean, this is like the least corny way possible, but also maybe not. Like, okay, I love eating like a ripe, all right, like full savage mode, like eating a ripe mango. This is actually me a couple of days ago, and it gets all over my face. Like I have added, like I don't chop that shit. Like I'll peel it and it's dripping all over me. And it is a great pleasure of my life. Also, like I feel the same way with like a runny egg or a messy sandwich or a big bowl of pasta, like something that I think being nurtured and fulfilled and sustained is sexy, one, and full. I am so grateful for those moments. And I also love making a mess. Like I'm a eat with your hands kind of girl. I will, like, if I wasn't on camera right now, I would eat that whole shit with my hands just now. But I am so like, again, I think it's the same thing with like the sensory thing. Like I want to feel it. I want to touch my food. I want to play with my food. I want to enjoy it in all the ways. And I feel like things that kind of make it easier to access all those things. Like I don't care about being prim and proper and using my fork and knife and like being orderly in that way, especially not at home, you know what I mean? But like I think there's a sense of like freedom, like to one, make the food that you want, and then two, eat it however the fuck you want, and like deal with the the mess afterwards. Something about the mess really like gets me going. And I'm, especially I think in general, when I'm not cooking, I'm kind of like a type A, like orderly person. So when I'm like surrendered to my meal, like I get the splooshes on my shirt, and sometimes I might have something in my hair, like I don't give a fuck, and like that's what's so sexy to me. The letting loose part, I really quite enjoy that.
I love that. So
or
true.
When something bursts, like, oh, I love bursts. Yeah. I'm like, oh my god, wow. what a gift here.
Yeah, totally. I love like a really messy sandwich,
Me too. When it's falling apart and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm not gonna try to get all these pieces. I'm just gonna scoop them up with my hand and just put them back in my mouth. And
yeah, that's the stuff right there.
A beautiful mess.
I live for it.
I don't know if anyone else has questions. They're free to ask, or if you have questions. If not, this was beautiful.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I hope y'all try the recipe. Let me know what you think and feel, or if you have any questions about that, you can share my email or my Instagram.
Yes.
But yeah, this was so dope, and so much fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was nice to see your face. It's been a minute.
I know. I think I might actually like call you soon and cook with you, and like just very low key. Yeah.
A little catch up. I would love that. Anytime, babe. I'm always up in this kitchen doing exactly what we're doing today.
Yeah, I'll be hitting you up. All right. Well,
All right.
enjoy. I'm gonna let you get your hands into that.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you everyone for being here.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.